Hello and welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host Ed, and on today's show, it's a PSG party. We're talking all about PSG 7. Yes, that's right, 7-0 win over Stade Brestois to advance to the round of 16 of the Champions League. But before we get started, let me thank all of you out there who have subscribed to PSG Talk Extra Time on Substack. We really appreciate your support. And if you haven't subscribed, please, consider doing so. It's only $5 per month, $50 for the entire year. You get access to more podcasts like this one. You get articles from myself and top journalists who cover PSG. All right, joining me today is longtime PSG Talk contributor Marc Damon and relatively newcomer Greyson Lee. Gentlemen, I hope you have a cold beverage. I've got one nearby here. Let me go ahead and crack that open because that was a demolition. Hopefully that sounded good. That was a demolition.
Very crisp.
PSG, as I said, 7-0, and it's 10-0 on aggregate. It was the second biggest aggregate win in Champions League history. We had goals from Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, Vitinha, Doué, Mendes, Ramos, and youngster Mayulu. So, Marc, let's start with you. Give me your overall thoughts on this match.
PSG really dominated. I mean, we could get
understatement
all
of the century.
I'm sure we'll get all technical as we go into this, but like 10-0 on aggregate. You said the second largest or whatever. I'm curious to know what the largest aggregate was.
I'm going to get the research department on that, but
Sporting Lisbon versus
we have a great
Bayern
budget,
Munich,
by the way, for that. So
yeah, what was that, Greyson?
It's Sporting Lisbon versus Bayern Munich. It was 12-1 on aggregate. So
there you go. There it is.
Of 11.
Okay. Well, so Greyson, you're our statistician, so that's good that we have we have one of those finally. No, it's like you go into it, and I sort of had the second leg nerves in the sense that like I've been through enough trauma when it comes to PSG and the second legs. And generally, PSG sometimes don't play well in a second leg when they're leading. Even in ties that they end up wrapping up, like Bayern Munich, I think 3 years ago, Barcelona 3 years ago, where you just sort of, they're barely hanging on. And it's obviously, in reality, Brest were never going to pose much of a challenge. And we'll get into the technicalities of everything. But like, this was a real sort of like statement win in the sense that when this team is operating at a high level, it looks pretty. Like, it looks like a team that could be a all-time great European side. Now, again, Brest are not a great team. They are a mid to upper mid-table Ligue team. So to say that this was some kind of grand victory that says, oh, here we come in the Champions League, we're going to go, all the way here, I would pump the brakes on that. But anytime you can beat a team 7-0 and have 7 different goal scorers, like, that's a good time. That's fun. Like, and you remember those games because it's like, you see like fans that go to the stadium or watch that game. Those are the kind of games that make new fans. When you play that well, when you play that nicely, when you're dominating, when the goals are as nice as the ones they scored, like that's a way to sort of really to get your fan base going. And I think the vibes are pretty good. There's some flashing warning lights, but you can't complain. It was just a really dominant, fun performance.
You say that we can't get excited because sure, it's just Brest. We beat them 3-0 in the first leg. I didn't say
we couldn't get excited.
We can't make any granular statements. But team beats a shell of Manchester City without Erling Haaland starting the match, and it's like everyone loses their mind over that, and PSG score more goals against that team, and then have this performance, and it's still like I don't know. So Greyson, over to you. I mean, what are your main takeaways and overall thoughts on this performance?
Sure. I mean, kind of to what Marc said, sensational match. You can't really complain much about anything when you win 7-0. I actually had to miss the first 20 minutes. I had a Russian folklore test of all things. Why I'm in that class is beyond me. But I got to watch the rest of the first half in the car and then the rest of the second half at home. So from what I did see, I know I missed the early chance where Marquinhos cleared it off the line. We were slightly lucky there, but you see him do this often, this sort of, okay, you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper, one-on-two, and he does kind of drop into that space to negate the far post. And it usually doesn't work out, but law of averages says eventually he's going to get that goal line clearance. And today it worked out in a big Champions League match. So that was great to see. Barcola, he adds a sort of vertical threat that we haven't seen in a very long time, probably since Lucas Moura, an absolute speedster who will either get a one-on-one with a goalkeeper or it's a two-on-one, and it's a simple, almost FIFA-esque goal. You're just sweating it, passing it across the middle, and it's a tap-in for a Dembele or a Doué, etc. And I don't think we've seen something like that in a while. We're usually playing possession, but it seems like Lucho's kind of said, when we play against someone that's not in a deep block, most Ligue 1 teams are, but we're not in the Champions League, we are going to eventually play those long balls over the top. And I don't know who can stay with Barcola at the moment, stride for stride.
Can you kind of believe that Brest were playing that high?
It's crazy. It
they
hit
did
them in
that
the butt
the
3 times.
and they got away with it because Barcola was offsides. He wasn't offsides on that one.
No,
I just feel like they were going, what's the meme, like Leroy Jenkins, and you just run in. Like, I feel like they just said, you know what, we're just happy to be here, and we're just going to go balls to the wall and see what happens. Maybe we get lucky.
It's just so early in the game, though. Like, you just almost scored, like, 5 minutes before that. And it's like, I just, like, I'm not mad at it, but, like, you can't allow Bradley Barcola to just run in behind you like that. It's almost automatic. If they play that ball just right off the offside trap, off the shoulder, he's too fast. Like, you're just not going to catch him. And they get to his shoulder, and he's able, and the touch wasn't the best, but he's able to sort of gather it around, switch it to his left foot, and then finish with his weak foot. Like, if he can start putting that stuff in his game, where he's now a 2-footed scorer, like that's pretty dangerous for opponents. Because if he's just the old term pace merchant, he ain't just that. Like he's got good control with his feet, and if he can finish with both feet, now you're talking about a complete forward.
Absolutely.
I love that pace merchant. Greyson, I can't let you get out of here too easy. Russian folklore. You got to give me one fact or something. We got to educate the people. Give me something from that class.
Sure. I'm actually really enjoying it, shockingly. I never thought I would. I only took it because a friend took it, and I had a class canceled on me because there weren't enough people.
Gotcha.
A lot of fairy tales. They love a good fairy tale over there, except it's not all happy endings. It usually ends with either a husband beating a wife or vice versa. So, yeah, it's all about domestic abuse. They love that. I don't know why. It's beyond goodness. Me. But back to the game, the scoreline, I don't think it flattered us. I think we took our chances when they came. The numbers don't exactly reflect a 7-0 performance, but still 3.5 expected goals. We did get 7 out of that. You're finishing at double the rate you're expected to.
I was just looking that up. How do we have 3.5 XG with 7 goals?
I think some of the chances that, like the Kvara chance, you think most of the time expected goals is calculated. Not only like if he misses that shot, it's not counted as any XG or any XG on target, anything like that. Our XG on target was actually more impressive than that. We did finish above it. It wasn't just sheer luck. We did put 5.72 XGOT on. So that's incredible. That's probably one of the better of the season. But, law of averages, like I said, we've been underperforming our XG. Eventually, we were going to overperform it. Had I wish we maybe saved that overperformance for a Liverpool or Barca? Maybe, but we take it when we can. I thought we were overall excellent. We had 4 different players with a goal and assist. You never see that. That's monstrous. Doué and Ramos coming off the bench, each bagged a goal and an assist. And then, of course, Barcola and Kvaratskhelia. He looked a little bit more comfortable than he has in prior matches. I think it's more of a fluid rotation up on the top line. You don't exactly have a position. It's kind of you're playing forward. If you see Dembele moving inside, you move out or move to the left. It's very fluid. It's very pleasant to watch. And even when we didn't get goals, there were some points where the link up was great. It was very flowy, very nice to watch, and not always a shot came out of that. and not always a goal came out of that. I think about that chance where Kvara does a little bit of a back heel after some good link up with, I think it was Dembele, and Ruiz puts it over. But the fact we're creating good, high-quality chances like that's encouraging, and we've been kind of relying on Dembele for goal scoring in the past 5 to 6 matches, but he didn't score today, and we won by 7. What could you possibly complain about? I mean, it's incredible.
What more can you say? Absolutely.
Even if he was, I think he played kind of a different role today. He wasn't just stick around in the box, try and get past your man and have a shot. It did seem more of his old self we saw with the progressive carries, the dribble success rate, winning duels left and right, creating opportunities. Didn't get a goal or an assist, but I still think he had an excellent game. I think he kind of brought up the defense, and it wasn't completely foolhardy for them to play high line. It was either that or Dembele running at you, and who wants that? The guy's 2-footed, quick. He's gonna score if you don't come out and close him down. But what a game!
It was unfair. Go ahead, Mark.
No, the space really started opening up in the second half. I think I think with the XG point, I think a lot of those chances as the game went on got a lot more high danger because Brest were just done at that point. But like you go back to again the first 20 minutes of the game, like. It's similar to not exactly the same, but you get that go back to that Stuttgart game where they almost give up that goal on the one end and then they score on the other, and it could be 1-1 and instead it becomes 2-0. Like really, the games can get decided in those kinds of moments where you don't give up you save a chance on the line and then you score again on the other side, and now. What could have been maybe a little interesting is now a blowout. And I just want to – I don't know if we want to go to the red flags yet, but let me just get a couple of really just to me what stood out positively from that.
Yeah, let's stick with positive. We'll get to the negatives.
Positive for now.
Because there's a question about that.
Yeah. I think Fabian Ruiz has taken the third midfield spot, and partly because Zaire-Emery's hurt, but – he's been really good. Like in the last 3 weeks specifically, he's been really, really good. He sets up the first 3 goals. He has 2 assists on the first 3 goals. It's his pass to Barcola that springs goal number 1. And then it's his link-up play with both Barcola, and then he lays the ball off to Vitinha, who settles and then scores that curler right on, going left to right. So Fabian, who I think got a lot of flack at PSG for sort of, not bringing his international form to the club level, but he's looked like sort of that solid connector that they need because João Neves is world-class, Vitinha's world-class. I think Fabian's like that step below world-class, but he's like just the right kind of guy for what they need him to do. And he's making the right pass. He rarely turns the ball over. He's physical enough. And he just allows those other 2 guys to be creative and to do the things that they need to do. And I've just been very impressed with how he's played, especially, the last 3 weeks, but really since the sort of the turn of the year. And him, along with Dembele, along with Desiree Doué's resurgence into the group. That's really, I think, been the tipping point to take this team from good to great. Like you just needed a few of those guys to like turn their level up by like a couple notches, and you're seeing it in a game like this where Fabian just just makes plays, controls the game. You look at the back line, Hacho, solid as always. You rarely see him lose a one-on-one. Like Marquinhos was solid in this game.
Hey, how about that clearance off the line from him? Because Brest could have easily scored there.
It's a smart play by him. It's a smart play to be in that position. I think it was the right. I just so want to make a point about that goal, but I'm holding off on making that point till we get to the negatives. But that almost goal, I mean. But
yeah, the almost goal. Yeah.
Kvara looked. I just want to say about Kvara because I know he's sort of the shiny new object here in the in the team. Like, I don't know how to best, and maybe Greyson, you can help me with this.
Sure.
Because it's like he's not. He's always feels like he's doing something. It always feels like he's on the ball or he's making a pass. It's not like Barcola where it's sort of you don't notice him for 10 minutes and then he'll do something spectacular and you're like, oh yeah, that's a game changer right there. Kvara's more like I'm surprised at his level of just sort of workmanship. Like he gets into stuff. It seems like the offense already is starting to run through him a little bit.
He's kind of like the offensive Pacho, who Pacho came in and like needed no ramp up time. He stepped in ready to go. Kvara's had like he hasn't needed anything to get going. He, like you said, he stepped in. His work rate is amazing. He's everywhere. He's on the ball, scoring goals, assisting.
Yeah, like he's just doing everything. Mm-hmm. Like he's and you look at like at the end of these games and you look at like the player ratings, like not that the sofa scores are any like major thing, but he's getting like 8s and 9s, and it's like he didn't really do one spectacular thing to get any of those, but it's just like his consistent play over the course of the 90 minutes. Like I hope I'm explaining that right.
Yeah, he completed the most dribbles in the match. Yeah. He won the most duels.
6 out of 7. Yeah.
But it's like you're not when you watch him, you're not like, oh my god, he's just spectacular at like. He's not like having those highlight plays where you're just amazed by him, but like it's just the consistency of what he's doing.
Give me an American sports reference. Who is the American equivalent to Kvaratskhelia? Someone who, at the end of the day, is like played amazing, but you don't really notice him, and he's everywhere at the same time. I'll let you think about that. Yeah, think about that one for a second.
I have to chew the cud on that one.
Yeah.
But to your point about Kvara, I think what I was worried about when we signed him for that heavy of a fee, there's no doubt that he's a good player, but he's always been in a team where he is one of, if not the guy. And I wasn't concerned in the sense that, he's not going to have the work rate to be at PSG. That wasn't something I was super worried about. But when you looked into his numbers at Napoli and for Georgia, even in the seasons where he was, a shining star, especially his first season in Serie A. The guy was putting up man of the match after the man of the match. But what you'd see is in his like shot numbers and his shot area statistics, the guy was just ripping them from anywhere and losing a ton of his dribbles. I think he had one of the lowest dribble success rates in all of the top 5 leagues. And that just does not sound like something Lucho would like. He loves ball retention, holding possession, and not being selfish. And I think my fears have been so far relatively assured. Today, definitely. He's putting up 6 dribbles with, I think 6 divided by 7 is like 84%. That's incredible. That's team best type numbers. That's prime Dembele when he was more of a dribbler. That's that sort of numbers. And in the first couple games, we did see a little bit of that. Not a high dribble success rate, kind of just popping shots, losing a lot of duels, getting dispossessed. But that's understandable for a new player and a new team, not used to the system. One thing that he did today that impressed me more than the goal, which I liked. I liked his grit to get down and make sure that he got a foot on that. I liked his assist. It was nice, whatever. When he tracked back from all the way in the attack, all the way back to our defensive end, to our end line, and sheltered the ball out of play, stood up off my couch. It shocked me.
Luis Enrique loved that.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised they didn't kiss at the final whistle. It was amazing. Barcola does a good bit of that. We'll see him put up really good defensive numbers for a forward. He's in like the 90th percentile for defensive actions compared to other forwards across Europe. But I did not think Kvara would be this, bulldog-like. He's pressing. He's trying to win balls. He's winning fouls. He's tracking back. He was at times the highest player on the pitch and also all the way back. He was behind Pacho on that one. It's not something I really expected to see. And honestly, the most promising sign. I think he's buying into the project. I think Lucho says, hey, I trust you. I've come to bat for you. You're the only reason you're here is me. I wanted you. And I think he'll work hard for the team, and that's almost more important than natural ability at some points.
And I think every player needs to do that. You mentioned Kamara's tracking back and Barclay, because if you don't, Doué's right there, Dembele, like we have attackers and there's only so many positions. So if you're not doing those types of things, and that's what Luis Enrique wanted. He wanted that competition. I'll give my just quick overall thoughts and then we'll get to the next topic, which is that, I mean, if there was any doubt, Luis Enrique knows what he's doing. I think we can all agree to that. He knows what a little thing about playing football, especially in the Champions League. So he knows what he's doing. I think, he signed the extension. PSG have their manager well into the future now. And I would say as a team whole, we've talked about him a little bit. Pacho, just a rock there at the back. I thought he was fantastic. We haven't really mentioned Vitinha much. He scored that really nice goal, by the way. I love that little goal celebration that he did with the headband. But I thought he was
two celebrations now. He has the hands out, straight out, and then he does the twirl with his headband.
Yes.
So he's trying to get two things over right now. Like he's trying to, we're trying to for the commercials, I guess. We're trying to get two things for the kids to emulate. But not much to say except for he's one of the best midfielders in the world.
We just published a piece that basically made the case for that.
He won the man of the match tonight. Yeah.
Just insane. This isn't Portugal talk, but think about how good that we talk about 2026 World Cup sleepers. Portugal.
Yeah. If Portugal's playing near your city, if you're close, you want to go see Portugal. That is for sure.
As long as Cristiano doesn't butt his way into the team, they should be okay. Actually,
he's not going to play, surely, right?
Him ripping that free kick off Vitinha, it did my head in. I mean, you're not like that on free kicks, man. Just let Vitinha cross in the box. Don't blast it over. Oh my.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, so we talk about the midfield, and when we get to the negatives, maybe you could talk about the midfield. You talked about Fabian Ruiz, who, what I like most about him is he does have that quality. However, he has that mentality where if Warren Zaire-Emery comes back and is in the lineup, you're not going to hear a bunch from Fabian Ruiz. He's happy to adapt to whatever role that Luis Enrique wants him to have. If he needs to play, he'll get 2 assists like he did today. If he needs to sit on the bench and come on, that's fine too. And I think PSG need those kind of team players like that. So love Fabian Ruiz, even though if I did kind of slight him a little bit for being slow, but he was fantastic. That nice pass over to Barclay early in the match, I thought that was fantastic. And then also another player we haven't talked about, Gianluigi Donnarumma, got the clean sheet. We've strung together several now here in the last few matches, and I thought, he didn't have a ton to do, but he did get down low, made a couple of really good saves, and so give him credit for that. I thought he played pretty well. No major mistakes.
I like his mentality right now. It's weird to say this, but ever since he almost got decapitated, he just feels like a slightly different guy.
Very lobotomy-esque.
I don't know. It's weird.
He's playing for that extension.
He's got the scar on his face now. He's he's got a little edge to him. He that clearance off the line, he goes back and just, he has that, he gives that little energy back to Marquinhos, gives him credit.
And that's been the criticism. He's been soft. Now he's got that scar. You're right. This is his villain origin story. Now he's the bad guy. He's embracing this toughness.
He's done being the pretty boy.
I like how he's playing. I think there's whatever it is. I think it's a different side to him now. I'm not 100% comfortable. Early in that match, there were a couple of long balls that Brest played that he was a little 50-50 on, but you're not going to be perfect at everything.
Yeah. I think especially that shot where he had to go low, the numbers say 0.06 XG. I don't buy it for a second. I trust numbers more than I trust my view of the game, but to see a man who's 6'5" get down that low that quickly, I mean, it was very impressive. And we even saw, his weakness is obviously playing with his feet. But, we saw him split the lines, not taking the easy pass out to, I think it was Kimpembe, but slotting it into Mendes. And I don't know if that one was a build-up to a goal, but I was like, oh, God, he's got the ball at his feet. They're pressing, and he splits the line. I don't know who took over his body when he got kicked like that, but I hope they're here to stay.
Let's get to the negatives. Mark, I know you're just itching, and we have a question about that. Hang on, let me. All right,
you're
so
gonna preface it with a question.
Yeah, so this one came. I got to give him credit. This came from at Hugo Express 112. Are there weaknesses in PSG's game? If yes, what are they, and how can Luis Enrique mend them before the round of 16? So highlight the weaknesses and maybe a potential fix or anything PSG can do before Liverpool or Barcelona.
Okay. So off that that missed chance, the one that got cleared off the line, off of that. The only reason that happens, you watch that play again. PSG basically have everything covered. The only problem is that Hakimi doesn't go with the runner. Go back and watch. He's actually ahead of the midfielder in that situation. Midfielder gets by him. Hakimi doesn't track him. There's no logical reason as to why he doesn't, unless maybe he's thinking Marquinhos is going to come over and pick him up instead of going to the line, which he did. I think that might have been a little miscommunication defensively, where Hakimi, again, thinks maybe Marquinhos takes him. But I'm not taking that risk. I'm running with the guy and not allowing that. That shot should have never happened. And it goes back to the issue. The issue really is if you face a team that can hit you on counters, that can complete and string passes together to create high danger chances in the box, are PSG good enough defensively? And they don't have to be great defensively. They have to be good enough, because it's very obvious that the Luis Enrique strategy when it comes to this is they're going to take a punch to give a punch. They're going to take two punches to give one, or take one punch to give two. They're not going to go in a shell. They're not going to play defensively. They're not going to drop 8 or 9 behind the ball. They're going to play their game. And if you get beat, you get beat. And you have to hope that the offense, that the attack can generate enough chances and enough goals to offset the defensive mistakes that you're going to make. And I would count that one as a defensive mistake. Brest hit the post 4 times in this tie. Now, would it have fundamentally changed it if any of those balls go in? Probably not.
We call that pulling a PSG.
Yeah, but still, Brest probably should have had a couple of goals in this thing. And the clean sheet's a little bit flattering, I think. I don't think the 10 goals is all that flattering. I think PSG earned most of them. I think the issue came from, I think the more of it is, I think the shutout's a little bit misleading. And I wonder if you're playing Liverpool or you're playing Barcelona, if it's not the speed issue on the outside, because Mendes and Hakimi are two of the fastest fullbacks in the world. Their issue is sometimes they get caught up the field. And honestly, the way they have their skill offensively, I don't necessarily mind that. You want those guys to be aggressive. You want those guys to be attacking. You want those guys to try to generate scoring chances and score and create crosses and put the ball in the box. That's what you want those guys to do. But are we really relying on 31-year-old Marquinhos to defend one-on-one against some of the best attacking players in the world? I just don't know if 31-year-old Marquinhos can do that. I think Pacho can. I mean, he's going to win some and lose some, but he's going to be able to be competitive. I just think that despite him making that clearance off the line, I think that blinking red light, that red flashing light is, can teams take advantage of Marquinhos? That would be my number one concern going into any tie against an elite team.
It does make you wonder, is the best defense offense then? I'm sure Luis Enrique knows that. So the second part is that how do you mend that before the round of 16? I don't know if you can. I don't
think there's a mend for it. There's no solution. You're going to then play 28-year-old Lucas Hernandez coming off an ACL tear. It's not a solution you can solve within. You have to go into the transfer window in the summer and fix that. Because Marquinhos, as great as he's been, as much of a leader, captain, all the games, most games played in PSG history, with all respect, he's not on the same timeline as the rest of these guys. And I'm not expecting him to be Thiago Silva, where, Thiago Silva was just an anomaly who could be an elite center back into his mid-30s. I just don't see that in Marquinhos' profile. I don't think physically he's that kind of guy. So I think that would be the concern, is that they're still giving up a few too many chances, and I think a really good team will take advantage of that. And if Barcelona or if Liverpool score 4 goals on PSG, which is not unrealistic, can PSG then would have to score 4 or 5 of their own? And do they sort of revert a little bit back to their XG, and maybe you score only 2, maybe you score 1? Last 2 times PSG have been knocked out of the Champions League, in the round of 16 against Bayern 2 years ago and the Dortmund tie, they scored a combined 0 goals in all 4 of those games. So they still have that in them.
The hope is that with all these goals that will overturn. But Greyson, over to you. I mean, Marc's worried about defensive issues. That's been a concern all season. Certainly is well warranted. Is there something else that stands out to you that tells you this could be a problem?
There's a few things. Starting off, I want to agree and disagree at the same time. What a great combination of things. I do think defensive solidity is a concern. However, I could not disagree more about it being the personnel. I think the system that we play, it's more of a systematic problem when it comes. We don't concede a ton of shots, but when we do, they're very high XG, which they're going to put more in considering they're more high XG. And I don't think that's necessarily on individual performances. You could probably put, Prime, Maldini, and Puyol back there. And if they get attacked enough times, 2-on-2, 1-on-1, they're going to make mistakes. That's just true across any set of teams that play. And they get put in those positions so often because of the system we play. We are kind of gambling every time we go up the pitch. We're playing with 2 wing backs at fullback. And we got Nuno Mendes and Hakimi, who are 2 of the most attacking, they have some of the best attacking output out of any fullbacks in the world. I know we all saw the score 90 thing. I don't know if I agree with them. I think they're great, but we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves with Nuno Mendes. I love him to death, though. But if you're going to play with 2 fullbacks that are designated attackers, essentially, they do get back and they put in their fair share of defensive work, but they're not going to always have the stamina to do that, or maybe they're not always locked on. There's always going to be a numbers disadvantage. And then to compensate for that, you either have to drop a midfielder a little bit deeper, play a double pivot, something like that, or you have to play a third center back. And I don't think we're going to do either one of those things. I think Lucho's, when you were saying attack as defense, I think it's possession as defense. If you keep the ball, you can't get scored on. But when we lose it, we're so incredibly vulnerable. I think that'll continue to be the case. But, the way we're playing, it may not even be just outscoring everyone, but we've always had a little bit of unluckiness in the Champions League. And maybe we get the rub of the green. Maybe they have 3 big chances, but score 1 and we score 2 of ours. It can just shake out like that. You're only playing a team twice, 2 legs. 1 shot could be the difference between going to the next round and not. And when it's high-quality teams, you just have to trust your attackers to make the right decisions, because I'm not wanting to change the tactics mid-season and say, we're playing a 3-back or we're throwing out a defensive midfielder. That's not going to happen. I don't want it to happen. But
nor should we.
Absolutely not.
No, and I think we agree more, honestly, than the point I'm making about Marquinhos is that I don't think PSG have had to really play a team that could attack with quality. They haven't played that team really yet. You go back to maybe Arsenal, but I don't think Arsenal are exactly that kind of team. I think they're more collectively, they sort of do
I'd
it.
Say Bayern for sure.
Bayern for sure. But Arsenal kind of do it by committee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Lamine Yamal and Luis Diaz and those types of elite level attacking players. And yes, I don't think PSG should change a thing about what they're doing.
Mo Salah is going to be a problem.
Yeah,
if,
but
PSG draw Liverpool.
You can overcome some of the structural deficiencies with elite play at the center back position. Because I've literally, you watched it in the whole 2010s, how many times you had a Barcelona or a Liverpool, not a Barcelona or Real Madrid win games with their center back play. Because those center backs are able to shut attackers down, right? Like if you're going to be expansive, if you're going to be, you're going to play that kind of football, you need 2 elite level center backs because you are going to expose yourself just by the nature of the way you're playing. And you go back and you look at guys like Sergio Ramos and Gerard Piqué and Raphael Varane when he was at the peak of his powers and players like that. And you're like, yeah, sometimes you just need a guy defensively to win a battle. And I think Marquinhos is just too slow at this point in his career. And I just don't want to see him have to be the guy to make those plays. I think you can play the way Luis Enrique is playing if you have the horses to hold it down in the back.
If you had a Virgil van Dijk, for example, if you had him over at Liverpool at PSG, maybe that would set you up a little bit better. But essentially what you guys are saying, it sounds like, is due to the style of play, to Greyson's point, but then also maybe Marquinhos getting up there in age, maybe not as physical, that this style of play is leaving these defenders out on an island. And sure, Pacho can maybe handle it with his physicality and his youth, but Marquinhos can be exposed at times. I think both of you guys can be true at the same time.
And the way you're going to have to – I'm so sorry, Cut. The way you're going to have to counter that is you're going to have to just be demonic in your level of pressing. Like you just can't – especially in your counter pressing. When you lose the ball, you cannot give teams an inch of space to make plays out of the back on you because they make 2 or 3 passes and now you're in trouble. So it's gonna come down to, can PSG effectively press these teams? And historically, they haven't been able to do that, which is why I think you see the level of chances that PSG give up in big Champions League ties because they're just not. There's not the ability to press, especially when you had those star players that just didn't want to press. But now you have guys that are at least willing to press. So it's a matter of can you not, when you turn the ball over, can you not just allow them to make 2 or 3 key passes to get into space and counter? That's what it comes down to. So you can even if you're not structurally sound defensively, you can still compensate for that with pressing.
And hey, if PSG can hang on to the ball, maintain possession, it's going to be hard for those teams to stream together passes and hit PSG on the counter. So that's going to be important. Neither one of you said anything about set pieces. I think it was in the second half. There was Donnarumma had to get down low to make that save, and it came off of a corner. We saw what Arsenal have done to PSG on set pieces. So my worry would be, especially against Liverpool and Van Dijk and some of the other players that they have, that they can really hurt PSG on an aerial duel and crosses into the box, set pieces, that sort of thing. I don't know how you fix that other than training.
One thing with the set piece point, that was going to be one of my other negatives. They didn't. I don't know what got into the coach of Brest's head before the game, but he drops his number 1 goalkeeper and starts a guy who's never made a start in the Champions League. He's only played like 5 or 6 games for the club this season. But also he drops a York, the most threatening player in their attack. I think he'd set his own career record for consecutive games with goals, and he is the monster in the box. He is the big guy. I don't think we were as threatened, although there was a huge chance from a set piece, but that will absolutely be a problem in the future. And one more negative before we switch topics. I know it shouldn't get under my skin as much as it does, but to see PSG put in an amazing performance like that, 7-0, 10-0 on aggregate, the second to only Bayern in that respect. And you know what gets the media coverage? Kylian Mbappe's hat trick. I know it was great. I'm not hating on the player. I mean, I don't like him, but
I mean, they've been pushing that
Yeah.
story for so long, and they finally get their way.
It's
So when he
ridiculous.
finally does something big, yeah, they're gonna blow it up. It was leading the post-match
Yeah.
talk and all of that. And I think
I
I
don't know
mentioned
what we
before.
need to do to get that coverage that's deserved for a 10-0
Yeah.
aggregate win. I don't see how that's anything else could possibly be the talking point. But
So I have personal experience. I have other sports wide experience on this. So let me give a little context here.
Let's hear it.
So
Go
as
for
a
it.
Giants fan, I've had to sit for the last 5 months and watch Saquon Barkley rush for 2,000 yards. Even though it was the right decision to let him go financially,
and he won a Super Bowl.
Team wasn't going anywhere. It still really hurts. It's a pain. It's a pain in the ass. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is much easier to tolerate because PSG have just been so good. This just
we're not the
feels
Giants,
like,
thankfully.
in hindsight, this just feels like a win-win for everybody. Now, if we end up having to play Real Madrid in the semifinals or the finals of the Champions League, it's going to become a whole different beast. But we're not there yet. We don't have to worry about that right now. But I don't honestly like. I was watching both games. I'm like, great, good for him. Man City aren't very good, so it's not like he's doing this against an actual Champions League contender. But like, I can't get mad. I'm not mad at it because it's like PSG are doing just fine, and I actually like the fact that PSG are a little under the radar right now. We're at that indie band level where we're just about to break out into the mainstream, but we're not quite there yet. But it's like everyone's like, oh, no Kylian Mbappe. Let's just not worry about PSG. And now it's like, oh, we're going to probably be the feature matchup of the round of 16. And it's going to be like, oh, now you're going to have to pay attention. Now,
in the post-match, Jamie Carragher, I feel like there's ripples starting where he's like, they're not going to be either Barcelona or Liverpool are not going to be too thrilled about having to play PSG, and they're starting to turn heads a little bit, but all the people in their ears are telling them, talk about Mbappe, talk about Real Madrid. But it's like they have to whisper it. PSG are good.
Yeah, I think people are starting to catch on to the fact that PSG are actually legitimately good. They have to retrain their brains from the superstar underachieving PSG to what this team is, which seems to be becoming one of the best teams in Europe, legitimately.
Let's get to the next topic. So after the match, I want to read this quote. Vitinha said, when asked about the next round, he says, I don't have a preference on who we can face in the round of 16. Liverpool or Barca, both are good teams. I just want to say it's incredible that we have almost the entire squad here without injuries to play all the games. Credit to our coaching and medical staff. So first, Marc, I'll go to you. Just thoughts on Luis Enrique and this medical squad, because I feel like that's really an underrated, underreported part of this amazing season we're having, is that the players are healthy.
I don't know how many times we've ever heard credit to the PSG medical staff. That's quite frankly a new one that I've never heard before.
We've had players go down with a twisted ankle and miss 6 months before,
just years ago, not birthdays anymore.
The annual Marco Verratti muscle pull. It's like one of those holidays that changes days every year, like Easter, where it's not quite on the same day every year, but it's in the same vicinity.
Yeah, it's coming.
We knock on wood, we haven't had, I'm just keep hitting it as hard again. We haven't had the major thing yet. The injuries you had were ankle,
Gonzalo Ramos was the big one early in the season.
Yeah, ankle twists. There's nothing the medical staff can do about an ankle. If somebody gets their ankle rolled into, we haven't had the just random running around. Somebody just pulls a muscle. That's really good. But I don't even want to talk about it because it's been just so good, and it's actually been good for the last year and a half or so. So
it's not the medical, just the medical staff
came in. And they got rid of the old players. Who would have guessed if you had a team full of 30-year-olds that they were bound to pull muscles and stuff? I guess
30-year-olds who weren't really completely bought into the project and maybe just there to collect their wages, yeah, who would have been surprised that, oh, I got a muscle strain and I'm out for 4 months. Greyson, it also speaks to the way that they've built this team, that they do have competition at almost every position, maybe except for right back. But, we have depth. Luis Enrique has rotated this team. So you got to give him a lot of credit, too, for this.
Absolutely. I do still worry. Luck's kind of been on our side along with the training staff. And I would say even more than the medical staff, to see this level of, this low level rather, of no non-contact injuries. Usually those are the killer ones. When you're in training, you pull something. Maybe he's giving them days off when they're supposed to. It's impossible to know from outside the club. But maybe the training isn't as intense. I mean, we heard Dembele complaining about that earlier in the season. But, I mean, it's working out for us. Luck's a little bit on our side. We haven't seen too many Gonzalo Ramos situations where you just get clattered from behind with a dirty tackle. We kind of saw it with Warren against
that's what
Stuttgart.
happens in the league on,
Yeah, it does. But we've gotten on, the good side of Luck. I don't know what we did to deserve this, but I'll take it while I can.
Yeah.
And good Lord, what was your question? I can't even remember.
No, that was the first part of the question, and I'll go back to Mark because there was a second part. So Vitinha said he doesn't care who they play, but Mark,
yes.
Do you care? Do you care who PSG plays? Who are you wanting to see?
I've thought about this. I don't. This is the mushy, mealy mouth answer, but there's a lot of there's pros and cons to both. But here's what I'll say. I think if you play Liverpool, I think we clearly have a midfield advantage in that game. I like McAllister, but I think PSG's overall midfield three is, I think, at a little bit better than what Liverpool can offer. Just my opinion. I'm sure Liverpool fans will disagree. I think Luis Enrique would rather play a game against Liverpool because I think it'll be a more controlled game. I think it'll be a more deliberate kind of game, and I think that's what he'd rather play. Playing Barcelona is like, I think that would just be a track meet of a game.
Yeah, and the storylines going back and playing his old team,
even more
that
than
whole
that,
thing.
I just think Barcelona have the midfield quality to match what PSG are doing, and I think just that kind of game is just going to play more open, like it did in the, it did last year, and most years when you play Barcelona, they're a little more open. I think in the Liverpool game, it'll be a little more cagey, and I think Luis Enrique likes it to be a little more like that because I think it better suits PSG defensively that they're not in some kind of track meet of a game. Like that makes sense, right? Like I don't want to play a fast game against a team that's running at us.
Yeah,
and
we saw how Barcelona picked PSG apart at the Parc des Princes in the first leg, Rafinha notably, and really PSG escaped that tie, advancing. Because Barcelona did go down to 10 men, so there's a little bit of an advantage there. So yeah I think I'm with you. Probably leaning more towards Liverpool. My concern there is going to Anfield. We saw PSG on the road this season in the Champions League. We saw it last year, Newcastle. Unless they've grown up, I do worry that they would sort of wilt under that kind of pressure, under the bright lights at a stadium like that.
What do you think, Greyson?
Who do you want to say?
Well, before I give my opinion on it, I think Vitinha is very well media trained. You don't want to say which team you want because that will spark a fire under them. I don't know if you guys are tapped into the James Alcott podcast, but he was recently talking to a former QPR player, and he said with these type of like media interviews, you never give them anything that could spark some type of feeling, and we already have that with Barcelona. We don't as much have beef with Liverpool, but if you said, "Man, I want Barca," why give them that extra ounce of motivation? They're going to fly into tackles. They're going to be running at you faster than they already are. It's a good answer, Vitinha. I don't buy it for a second, but it's a good answer. He probably has a preference, but boy, I wish the draw was more open. I don't want either one of them, to be honest. I love our team. Yeah. I think we can get by either one, but I would much rather have BSV or Feyenoord or something like that. But if it has to be between these two, I think I'm leading Liverpool too. Their form hasn't been as great. Mohamed Salah scares the crap out of me running down that left flank. Cody Gakpo, not as much. He's not as quick of a player, but he is excellent. I'm not taking away from the player at all. He is excellent with his feet. But Rafinha, he terrifies me for Barcelona.
Yeah,
Hakimi has been dusted by Coman when we played Bayern Munich. And we know Kingsley. We've seen what he can do, but he's not at the peak of his powers anymore. And they just kept him up on that left side and countered every single time we lost the ball, and Hakimi was either inverted or high up the wing. And he caused a ton of problems for us. Rafinha is a better player at the moment than Kingsley Coman. I don't think we'll get away with having Hakimi that far up without someone covering that zone. And so that terrifies me. But I think they also would nullify Bradley a little bit if he is going to play off that left. Really like Jules Koundé. Would love to see him come to the club as a backup right back, a starting right center back if we do see kind of Marquinhos drop off. He is on the not so great age curve side. But I think I'd rather play Liverpool, but golly, they got some big bodies on corners. It's terrifying.
It's not like there's no right answer here. It's just like,
don't take offense to Liverpool fans who may find this.
No, absolutely not. If they listen to us, they're going to,
really thin margins here. I just think I just think Liverpool is going to play a style that I think PSG would rather have to deal with, just preferentially. But I
like that Bradley Trent matchup. I like us for that every day of the week.
You know what it is too? It's like either way, I think PSG, quote unquote win. I think either way, in the sense that, look, they went from being dead in the water in November. And I'll admit, I thought they were dead in the water because it really was going to take a lot for them to recover. And they did. And now they're in the round of 16, which is where they should be at a minimum. But it's been a really strong last 3 months ever since, they really were left for dead in the Champions League. And this is going to show one way or the other sort of what this team needs to do, because I still kind of feel like they're a transfer window away from really being the team that can win a Champions League. Like last year, it was sort of the Kylian Mbappe show, and the rest of the team wasn't quite there yet. This year, we're farther along, have more talent, the team's playing better, the style's starting to work, but they're not quite. I just think they're like a couple pieces away, and this is a tie that will allow PSG to sort of evaluate the team at the highest level. Like Liverpool and Barcelona are Champions League contenders. PSG can be one. They might be one. Hey, they might go in and win this, and then we're like, all right, we've just completely changed the calculus here. And this is an absolute Champions League contender. Right now, I'm not sure if they can win it. And this is really where you get to see, all right, if they can't win it, if they get beat by Liverpool or they get beat by Barcelona, you can very plainly see the deficiencies of the team and make the adjustments you need in the summer. And that's what I like about having this tie now. Because it gives you that time that if you do lose it, you have the opportunity, you have 2-3 months to figure out, okay, here's where we have to go in the window. And we can really target the people that we need to bring in here to put those final pieces in place to really have the team. And if they win it, now you're looking at the way that the draw's going, you might be in another semifinal. And now it really is a different kind of game for PSG. They're ahead of schedule. And you always want to be ahead of schedule, but I think going to the semifinal or the final without Kylian Mbappe, the first year he leaves, would be a huge statement for the club.
Big hit for him, too.
That's a monster statement if they can pull that off.
You know what,
So-
Mark? After you had to sit and watch Saquon Barkley win the Super Bowl, PSG need to go ahead and win this damn thing.
You've earned this. You deserve it.
They need to win.
I've
For
learned in
Mark
life
Damon,
you don't
print
earn
the
anything.
T-shirts.
You don't earn
For
anything.
Mark.
You just sort of fall into stuff.
I don't know. I think I've said on previous. There's just something. I'm going to with the word romantic about playing Barcelona. I mean, our team and their team are just so intertwined this past decade or so, and why not? Let's do it again. Let's renew the rivalry. Let's
Would
start
that
the
be-
chants.
Would
You know,
that be PSG's biggest rival outside of France?
yeah, I think it has to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, taking
they're the
taking
biggest-
Messi and Neymar.
I think they have to be the biggest rival, right?
Mm-hmm. And they got the remontada, and yeah, I think so. I think it has to be the biggest rivalry. I mean, if it depends. Maybe this season PSG go up against Real Madrid. Maybe that's something with Mbappe. Maybe that becomes the new rivalry. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe, but I just feel like that's one of the biggest games in world football. PSG and Barcelona just has that feeling.
Yeah.
It's always good. There's
Yeah.
always goals. There's
Mhm.
always drama. There's always tension. Like there's a history now between those two teams that is really hard to ignore. Like I'd say, like, you talk about the PSG rivals, it's Marseille, and I think Barcelona's too.
They're up there for sure.
They're up there. I mean, seriously, it's like, and it's always stress when you play them.
Yeah, you never think you're going to easily win. It's going to be high stress. I mean, we saw it last year. They lost the first leg, and then that amazing performance in the second. Of course, that red card certainly played a part. Guys, we're coming up on time. We did get a few more questions and comments. So, like, from @PSG Connoisseur, he just said this is the most entertaining and most top quality PSG team in the QSI era. Many likable players. Everyone seems to be in form at the moment. And he says, I love this team, and they're just getting better with time. I think we all would echo that. We talked about weaknesses. We had another one about the clean sheets. We talked about the defensive setup. So a lot of the questions that came in, I feel like we've talked about it, and we've got just a few minutes left. And I wanted to get to a kind of a fun/irritating issue that came up. So as you could probably tell from our accents, we're based in the United States. So our broadcaster for PSG matches in Ligue 1 is BN Sports, who are available on Fubo TV and YouTube TV, if I'm not mistaken, and some other maybe second, third tier cable providers. Mark, do you want to take it from there and explain to people what happened during the last match? And maybe, I don't know, is it still going on? Take it from here. Explain to the people what was going on.
Okay, so BN Sports BN Sports is the Qatari-owned sports network. So they have their different BN Sports France, BN Sports in Africa, BN Sports here and there. And the United States has its own version of BN Sports. So it used to be the home of, like, before the rights exploded in the United States, it used to be the home of all the leagues, like La Liga, Serie A, Liga, and EFL, I think, even was on there for a little bit. It has died a slow, painful death the last 6-7 years. And, we had a little rights issue at the beginning of the year where there was a threat that we might not even have United States coverage. Nasser, I guess, sort of made a deal, and now BN has the United States rights. So in the game on Saturday against Toulouse, I think it was Saturday, right? Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, yeah.
So first half is fine. Get to the second half, like about 50 minutes. It was about at the 50-minute mark. Screen goes black, and then you just get an ad loop. So during the commercial breaks, they don't really have, like, actual commercials. They have, like, these ad loops where they'll like plug 5 or 6 of their things that they have, whatever rights they have. So, watch the African Cup of Nations on BN Sports. Watch Ligue 2 on BN Sports. Watch
bare knuckle fighting
and football and all the other, and paddle and all the other, like, third-rate sports. Like, There was a movie 20 years ago called Dodgeball. I don't know if anyone get that reference. And the whole joke was ESPN 8 the Ocho,
The
where it
Ocho.
had all the obscure sports.
Speedboat
Like, that's
racing.
what beIN Sports has become. It's ESPN 8 the Ocho. It come to life. So that loop played the entire second half. So if you were just trying to watch the game on the cable channel, beIN Sports, you did not see the second half. You'd have to go to beIN Sports Connect app where you could watch the second half.
Which is typically how I watch the games. And they have this interesting trick because, of course, they want you to watch ads. So when you click on the game, they make you sit through a 30-second ad, and then you can finally hit skip to get to the game. And they strategically will not play the game that you clicked on, so that you have to go and click on it again and watch another video. And then eventually, after like 3 times, it finally works. They think they're slick. You think maybe it's a glitch, but it happens every time I try to watch a match. So I'm starting to think it's on purpose.
Yeah. But anywho, that ad loop lasted a good 20 hours. I literally turned it back on in the morning and they were showing the same ads. I think at this point it might be scarred into my brain. I think it was like they were showing like foot volley, I think was one. Paddle was one. Paddle was definitely one of them. Then it's like the African Cup of Nations, the CONCACAF.
Any Russian folklore? No,
none of that. Nothing with Ilias or any of those things.
Shout out Ilya, yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking. Like there was this. I don't remember what it's
called. The old Kolsak,
yeah. But there's this Russian myth where I think like they live in this village and the village gets raided and the guy's mother gets taken and he gets like banished off into somewhere and he has to like. Whatever.
I think you're thinking of another guy.
Isn't that the plot of like Taken with Liam Neeson?
No,
we're so far off the plot.
It was a Russian movie. I haven't seen the thing in 10 years, but it's like they get it's like whatever. Anyway, we're getting.
We're going to show it on beIN Sports.
We're getting way off topic right now. beIN Sports sucks. Let's bring it all back to that. beIN Sports
it just sucks.
It really is, and like if you're a fan of like Real Madrid or Barcelona or the Premier League teams, you don't have this problem of worrying about being able to watch your team, like having any worry at all. Because you're if you buy the service is going to work. You're going to be able to watch your team. It's not an issue.
You'll get a pre and post match show either on your cable package or online. Like there's some production value. We get none of that. Greyson, let me just any thoughts on beIN because you watched this.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Don't follow my Twitter. You will see rants about this. We're not calling it X, by the way. I'm calling it Twitter, but not the point of this. What a tin pot company. Jesus Christ. What are they doing? I cannot fathom how a multi-million-dollar corporation does this bad. I'm going to yell at all 4 of their employees, say it directly to them. If you are watching this, which you're not, because you're in a warehouse somewhere, I don't know what you're doing. It's not difficult. Honestly, they had a Turkish league game recently. I tuned in because I was bored. They had to cut to a guy filming with his iPhone because the production got cut. How does this happen? People are paying good money.
Are you joking? That really happened?
I wish I was kidding. It got posted about by Fabrizio and all these other people. I thought I was losing my mind.
That's incredible.
Thought I hit channel switch. It's just a Donnie in the crowd going, it's ridiculous. What are you doing? You're getting all this money and not a lot of ad revenue because who wants to put a commercial on beIN Sports? But honestly, I might run an ad with me ranting about this. Like it's probably $8. It's ridiculous.
There's no ads at this point. There's
it's their own ads. Yeah, it's
how much money do you think?
Company.
Like, do they have an ad department? That's what we should do after this. Google their ad department. I want to see if we can get an ad on their network. What would it cost?
I'm going to tell you what it is. Because last year they started the year with Phil Shane and Thomas Rongen and all those guys. And then they just fired everybody, shipped the whole thing off to Mexico. It's like such a ragtag operation. And it's hysterical because it's like this is our fate. We have to watch this on this horrible network.
beIN Sports can have potentially the Champions League winner this season and they've got one guy in a warehouse like unplugging HDMI cords and plugging them back in.
Absolutely. What a
Filming
shocking
with an
organization.
iPhone off his computer screen when the feed
It's
goes
terrible.
out. Oh my gosh, guys!
Go
ahead, finish your thought.
I mean, like you said, I've thought about this a billion times. Why, if only we got picked up by Paramount instead of Serie A. Imagine having your Champions League and your Ligue all in one place. You get a post-match, a pre-match. I think I would do a number of crimes to make that happen. BN Sports, hit me up. Join Paramount. Sell your organization, whatever you have to do. I'll come work for free. Just
sell the
instead of sell the team, it's sell the stream.
Sell the rights. Like,
absolutely,
it's a good way for Nasser to just get out of there's no reason.
Would we still be with them if Nasser didn't own them? I don't know. I thank you for all your funds, but sell that terrible company for all $8 you can get for it. I mean,
let's see what's on something right now.
Yeah, let's see. Mark,
get your
iPhone. Show us what's on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got
better that way.
We have actually something live.
Oh, okay.
El Nacional versus Barcelona, not that Barcelona, but the other Barcelona in South America.
Oh,
lovely.
Copa Libertadores.
Well, there you go. I know what I'm doing this evening. Guys, any final thoughts before we get out of here? Mark, final words?
10 o'clock, we got World Downhill Skiing. 11 o'clock, it's BYAB Extreme Fighting Series.
That's it. That's what I like right there.
Is a bare knuckle fighting organization. So that's your bare knuckle fighting right there.
None of this covered knuckle fighting. That we don't want that. We want bare knuckle.
Too soft.
And Greyson, the person I was thinking about is Ilya Muromets.
Yes, we that was most of our tests today. He's quite the lad.
Yes, that's the movie I saw.
I'd take him at the club, honestly. Stick him at center back.
Yeah, stick him at center back. You can have more on that on Russian folklore talk coming up after this show. But Greyson, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, great class at the University of Alabama. Only got convinced of it. Shout out Nick Roller, who drags me into this monstrous class where we have a 4-question test.
4 questions.
Love PSG. What a game today. Sad I had to miss a little bit of it, but I mean, I got 6 goals worth in less than a full game. So I really have no complaints. We're going to be waiting for the Champions League draw at 12 on Friday. I don't want either of them. Hopefully there's a malfunction when we get PSV.
6 in the morning our time, 7 in the morning our time.
I'm not waking up that early.
Something like that.
I'll catch it on
see it
Twitter.
when I wake up. Yeah.
I'll catch it.
It's pretty early. It's just another reason to have a draw. Why we couldn't just do that draw before, I don't know. But they just have any excuse to have a draw. They love pulling the balls out of the bucket and making us anticipate and wait.
Yeah. The drama of it all. Well, we've got that on Friday, and then don't forget on Sunday we've got PSG traveling to Olympique Lyonnais. So that'll be an interesting match to look forward to. So, hey, it's all happening right now. Very exciting times. Guys, thanks so much. Greyson, Mark, thanks so much for coming on. And thank all of you out there for listening to this high-quality podcast. We really appreciate your support. We'll have a lot more on all things PSG. But until next time, Mark.
Au revoir for now.